Musk claimed DOGE's reforms could save $175 billion through rapid federal downsizing. From an economic standpoint, sir, how credible were these projections, and what methods challenges, sir, arise when quantifying such savings in government contexts?
Hi, thank you for having me. Yes, I think it's important that when we talk about DOGE, we should really, it's very important obviously to consider the numbers. Don't forget that the first target was to reduce the government spending by $2 trillion. Then they upped to $1 trillion. And now the target was around $150 billion. But what is more relevant is the signaling process. Here is the message that the current administration wants to give the U.S. government, in general, the market, is that there will be a clear attention to have the accounting of the federal government spending is going to be checked regularly, that it needs to be put some order. It is almost normal and common in any part of the world where all the government fiscal accounting or recording is pretty nebulous, and people can say that almost is nebulous by design because it's extremely difficult to account it for proper, expenses and track whatever spending has been accounted to an administration, to the previous one or the one who followed. Now, with those, the message they want to give is that they were trying to put order in the house, in this case, in the accounting. That's more relevant than the number itself.
Sir, why do you think this sudden shift happened between Donald Trump and Elon Musk? And what are the short and long-term economic consequences of eliminating 250,000 federal jobs in such a short period?
Yes. Now, the problem with the government job is that, as you know, most of them have been questioned, have been appealed by federal government and local and regional judge. So obviously, it's quite a long process, and it's quite complicated, convoluted in itself. Regarding the relationship between Musk and Trump, don't forget that we're talking about two very strong alpha male personalities. So I'm not surprised that they come to this agreement. But what is interesting is that by definition and by design and by the appointment, Musk was supposed to have a temporary job at the DOGE or whatever government position he took. It was a temporary appointment. He was aimed to lead maximum to the summer. So I guess it's not a big surprise that he's leaving this job. It was defined as a temporary position. So I'm not surprised.
Sir, do you think Musk's departure signals a broader tension between entrepreneurial efficiency and democratic governance? I mean,
Trump is an eclectic entrepreneur. We know that he's a person that he participates to trigger a revolution to the payment system with PayPal, and now we are seeing a long wave of that into even the Qnews Act of stablecoin last week, where we are seeing that there is a restructuring of all the financial payments worldwide. He's been one of the starters with the PayPal procedure we're talking about almost 15 years ago. He then triggered a revolution into the electric vehicles, and now with Starlink and SpaceX, is kind of giving rise to a completely new wave of innovation from a technological and eventually application point of view, both at space travel and eventually space mining. Don't forget that if SpaceX proved that there is a possibility to mining an asteroid or to mining part of the moon, we're talking about the possibility to have unlimited resource for the world production. So I'm not saying this is going to be achieved, but if just 10% of that can be achieved, we have to consider that SpaceX made a contribution to this kind of rush, a gold rush. Then let's not forget what the role Starlink played in the current Ukraine and Russia war, giving the opportunity to the Ukrainian troops to actually have availability through Starlink to internet connection, and so availability of communication. Without that, it would have been complicated. So we're talking about an entrepreneur that, like it or not, I'm not saying we need to like it, definitely had a huge impact on three main industries. And we cannot know many more. Maybe I can think of three jobs who contribute and revolutionize different industries. But there are not many people I can think of, like it or not, I'm not giving a personal judgment or political judgment, who materially had an impact on different industries.
Sir, Musk publicly criticized the $3.8 trillion spending bill as wasteful. How might such rhetoric from a high-profile advisor influence perceptions of the administration's fiscal credibility, sir?
I mean, the problem is that we have to see what this new administration, again, I'm not giving a political judgment, I'm not supporting or criticizing the current administration, but we have to put these things into context. The Trump administration came into power basically in January, and in January the U.S. was running a deficit of 5 to 6% of versus GDP. We reach a point of almost 7.5 to 8%. We are talking about the highest deficit in the history of the U.S. In peacetime, so take apart the wartime. And we cannot consider this as a war. I mean, we're talking about a global war. So obviously, the fiscal situation that the Democratic administration left the U.S. with was an unsustainable situation, where the debt to GDP broke 10% in the U.S. If we have a deficit that is growing even at 5% on a yearly basis, with the U.S. that hopefully will grow at 3%, you see that by definition you would increase minimum, anything else equal, by 2% the debt to GDP, whereas the U.S. needs to reduce the debt to GDP. So the situation they were left with was unsustainable. We can question if what they are trying to do to reduce deficit and so to reduce the debt to GDP is good or not good, but for sure they have to dramatically and drastically change the path where the U.S. economy was left with.